to Bible Time. My name is Divina and today we're going to be doing part 1 of our Exodus Bible study. We're going to continue working out of the Bible study book. If you're unfamiliar with these, I ordered these online. I'm not sure if you can get them anywhere else, but there's 2 books, and there's one for the Old Testament and one for the New Testament. I have videos of us going through the Genesis portion. If you are interested in that, they are on the channel in my Genesis playlist. Anyway, so today, at the beginning of the book, we have kind of like a breakdown information about this book. So, this is part of the Torah, book 2 of 5. 5 books make up the Torah. So, author, before the Greeks changed the Hebrew Bible, the first 5 books were all one book, written by Moses, called the Torah. Date: Moses wrote the book of Exodus sometime during the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness of Sinai, in between their exodus out of Egypt in 1446 BC and the conquest into the Promised Land in 1406 BC. Audience: Exodus was written to God's chosen people, the Israelites, who were beginning to form a nation after being enslaved for 400 years. They had no sense of identity at this point, and their mindset was more or less Egyptian by influence. Reason: Moses wrote this book to create a historical record of their escape from Egypt and the giving of the law. Theme: deliverance from slavery and the creation of a nation. Key verse: I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Sections: we have the early life of Moses, which is chapters 1 through 4, the plagues in Exodus, chapters 5 through 15, the Red Sea and the giving of the law, 16 through 24, and the tabernacle, 25 through 40. Keywords: slaves, deliver, covenant, law, tabernacle, and holy. So, the first page as we dive into this reads: the first half of Exodus is all about God setting the Israelites free from slavery, while the second half is all about how they were to live now that they were free. There is a direct correlation to the New Testament here. God sets us free from our sin and then gives us direction on how to live by properly serving Him. Genesis ended with a group of 70 people from the line of Jacob going into Egypt to be saved from a worldwide famine. Exodus picks up 400 years later, and we see what was originally great for them turned into something terrible: slavery. A new Pharaoh entered the scene after Joseph died, and he didn't agree with the blessing of the Hebrews. He wasn't dealing with a group of 70 anymore either. The Hebrews were multiplying. By the time of their release, they had grown into a group of 600,000 men with women and children, estimating to be about 2.5 million people total. That seems like a massive multiplication when you first look at it, but we must remember that a lot can happen over 400 years. Yes, population increase. Okay, so the first question is, why do you think God allowed them to be enslaved for so long? My answer to this question is to test their patience and their faith. So just to kind of elaborate on that answer some more, I feel like we deal with that in our day-to-day as well, and I feel like we saw that happen with the most recent form of slavery here in the United States as well. Because even though many people of faith cried out and prayed to God for it to end, it took many, many years for that to end. And so I think about it, and like in my own tests and trials, and I think about how big patience is. Because when we try to go ahead and do something before God directs us, or when we try to force things to happen and it's not God's timing, we usually end up doing the wrong thing, and we usually end up going in the wrong direction, and things just don't work out. You know what I mean? Patience, I think, is important, but I think obviously faith is even more important than that. faith is the basis of everything. You know, if we don't have faith in God, then we don't have anything. So I think being in slavery so long is a very big test of faith. We have to have faith even when things look so bleak and there seems to be no way out. God always has a way out, you know? So I think about that. I think about how that applies to my own life and my own day-to-day dealings. You know, what do I need to have faith in God for? And what am I trying to lean on my own understanding for instead of His? You know? Because we can't see the overall plan, right? We only see what's right in front of us. That day, that week, that month, you know, whatever it is that we have planned in a maybe short amount of time. We can't see the whole picture. So we have to have faith in God. Then when certain things happen, when certain things go wrong, even though it may seem bad, sometimes those things may be blessings. You know what I mean? And we have to have faith in the trust in God to let Him do what He's got to do. You know? So that's what I feel. You know, if you have a different answer, please, I love to have these conversations with people. Please leave it in the comments. But yeah, okay, so long story short, that is my answer to test their patience and their faith. Chapters 2 and 3 cover a broad span of Moses' life. 80 years, actually. It goes from his birth and being raised by the Queen of Egypt to his fleeing into the wilderness and becoming a shepherd for 40 years. How did Moses' upbringing have a positive impact on the Israelites? That is our next question. So the answer that I wrote down in my book was he survived the murders of the baby boys. So he was in a position of power, able to receive the best treatment and education. He had a connection to the Pharaoh, and he used it to help deliver the Israelites out of Egypt. Now, when I was looking back in my Bible to kind of try to form an answer to this question, there's nothing that I wouldn't say there's really anything that stood out in the scripture that kind of directly correlated his upbringing and how that prepared him. But when you think about the fact that our whole lives are a preparation for something, you know what I mean? Some things, even little things sometimes in our life that we may learn how to do may prepare us for something bigger later on that we just don't know it at the time. So I think about the fact that how could he have saved the people from Egypt if he died? So he had to be saved first. So that's part of his upbringing, the fact that he even survived. The fact that he was taken in by royalty, no less. I mean, he could not have been saved by a better family. You know, he could have been saved by a poor family, somebody that had no name, some, you know, people, just regular folk, and he would have never been, you know, even near Pharaoh or anything else, you know what I mean? And because of the family that he ended up with, he was educated. He grew up better than the average person, you know? Later on, you know, we do talk about how he has a stutter and stuff like that. That doesn't mean he wasn't intelligent. He was a very intelligent man. So I feel like his connection to Pharaoh and the family was kind of what got him in the door, you know, to even be able to speak to them about God wanting to deliver the people out of Egypt. So I think those are really the main points that I would make on that front. That his situation growing up really prepared him to be able to get everybody out. Because, you know, if he was just some regular Hebrew that had never been anybody to anybody, why would anybody have even given him the time of day? You know what I mean? And the last question that we're going to look at for today's video is, what leadership traits did Moses acquire during his time in the wilderness as a shepherd? I also didn't really find anything specific on this in the Bible, but what I would infer just from the shepherding job itself was that he learned how to lead a group. One shepherd leading a huge flock is a lot, you know what I mean? And when you think about it, they're talking about 2.5 million people that were delivered out of Egypt. So he had a lot of people that he needed to lead. So obviously he had to have learned how to lead a group. Patience, again, because you're going to have sheep going this way, that way, and you have to figure out how to keep them all together. And then the people, the Israelites, started doing stupid stuff right when they got out of Egypt. So, he had to have patience with them, even though he kind of lost it a little bit because he threw down the 10 Commandments and broke them, which is understandable. I would be upset too. So another answer that I gave was compassion. He could have maybe just abandoned these people and said, all right, that didn't work. I mean, I got you guys out of there, but I'm going to go live a life for the Lord and you guys do you. You know what I mean? But he had compassion for those people, and I think he truly wanted them to be saved, and I think he wanted to guide them in the correct direction. So I feel like that's why he didn't abandon them. And wisdom. I feel like he immediately took a course of action in his mind whenever he realized what was going on. He's like, I have to fix this. How do I fix this? And I feel like his wisdom also came from really trusting God. There's just some things that you have to know. You know what I mean? Like yes, you learn things along the way, but sometimes you come to crossroads and you have to make decisions, and I feel like his time as a shepherd kind of would have helped him to be a little quicker on his feet. You know what I mean? That's just my inference, because, like I said, there's nothing really specific in the Bible that says exactly what it is that he learned while being a shepherd. This is just my inference. But yeah, so that is what we're going to cover for today. Please let me know in the comments if you think anything different, or if you think I was way off base on anything. Please let me know. I love to have discussions about the Bible because I'm still learning. And, this is only the second book that I've made it through its entirety. Like, yes, I've been in church my whole life and I've been hearing verses in church my whole life, but actually reading the Bible and reading every single verse and kind of seeing the whole story start to unfold, it's different, and so yeah, I'm still learning, and I'm trying to interpret things as best as I can. Sorry, I looked up because my cat. Anyway, so that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. We will have our first reading of Leviticus coming up on Sunday, so I'm excited for that, a new book. Anyway, I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. I've been so low because of you. I've come out of the